Postafazul. She's around, she's a firm, she's a fully packed, she's around like my head. She's flat like your head.
My name is Mitch and this is IGN News. Former Canadian astronaut and chief operating officer of the Montreal Science Centre, Julie Payette, believes the one-way Mars 1 mission to send people to live on Mars won't succeed, saying, quote, "Nobody is going anywhere in 10 years. Brutal. Largely using existing technology, the Mars 1 mission aims to begin human colonization of Mars by landing teams of 4 on the Red Planet by 2025. The $6 billion American project primarily seeks funding through donations, sponsors, private investors, and a planned reality TV show. During a keynote at an aerospace symposium at the International Civil Aviation Organization in Montreal, Payette said, quote, "We don't have the technology to go to Mars with everything we know today, so I don't think that a marketing company and a TV type of selection is sending anybody anywhere." Real talk. Payette added, quote, "So if you meet any of those people, don't tell them they're courageous because the only courage they had was to sign up for a website. This is cold." An independent study and analysis of the mission by engineers at MIT found the project not feasible in its current form. Nobel laureate Gerardo Tooft recently told The Guardian that the time frame for Mars colonization was at 100 years from now, rather than Mars 1's proposed 10-year timeline. 100 finalists were recently selected for more than 200,000 applicants looking to permanently settle on Mars. According to reports, however, NBC allegedly estimates that the actual number of original applicants is just 2,761. Earlier this week, Mars 1 project volunteer Dr. Joseph Roche voiced his concerns over the project. The former NASA engineer made it to the top 100 candidates list and recently came forward with claims that the project may be more about generating income than advancing human knowledge. Roche was concerned that the list of top 10 finalists was made primarily of people who generated the most money for Mars 1. Quote, "You get points for getting through each round of the selection process," Roche said, "but then after that, the only way to get points is to either donate money to the project or to buy merchandise from Mars 1. For all your Mars 1 news, stay tuned to IGN.
NASA has called off its next Mars mission because of a leak in a science instrument. The InSight spacecraft was supposed to take off in March and land on the Red Planet next year, but NASA said Tuesday that managers have suspended the launch because of an air leak in one of 2 prime science instruments, a seismometer which belongs to the French Space Agency. It was supposed to ship to the Southern California launch site next month. The cancellation raises questions about the future of the research effort, as it will be another 2 years before Earth and Mars are favorably aligned for a launch. NASA has not said if it will have funding for the program, which was capped at $425 million.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Broadcasting straight to you from a large spaceship, currently charging up for a big 2016. It's going to be a very flat year. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. If you can't find it, well, then I have no hope for you. My good friend and personal wingman for the show is Jonathan from New Jersey. What's going on, man?
How are you, sir?
You know, I can't really complain. Actually, I can because I had some little stomach thing the last 24 hours, and I feel like hammered crap. But that's okay. I'm going to power through. The show must go on, as it were.
And I'm eating banana bread, and I got chest pains. I mean, I got diabetes for Christmas. That's what I got.
Nice. Yeah. You see, one of ours is voluntary and the other is not, but that's okay. A quick shout out to to fans that have sent me stuff this week. Brian sent me his own DVD of the Black Box UFO. That was really cool. And Douglas Ellison sent me a copy of his book, Become Healthy in Spite of Doctors, a revolutionary guide to mental and physical health. So thank you very much for those. Tonight, we're not going to be taking calls probably until the very end of the show, even if we take them, because we have a special guest, our good friend Jeffrey Grupp, who is making his 4th appearance on the show to coincide with a very cool video that he just put out. He's trying to basically make the model. He's the biggest brain in flat Earth, in my opinion, and because mostly he's got a gigantic head. I think it could be actually be bigger than mine, and I wear a size 8 hat. So it's true. He's got a really big head.
That boy's got a huge cranium.
It's like an orange or a toothpick. So he's doing his he's going to be doing his thing here in a few minutes. So anyway, we're going to love bringing him on. But before that, Jonathan wanted to say a couple, because it's the end of the year, say a couple quick shout outs to people that just aren't getting it. Is that about right?
I have to say, since last we spoke, I thought about it, and I'm like, why not go into the new year like with peace and all that good stuff that everybody always talks about? Like, why go in with angst?
Seriously.
Yeah. I thought about like your philosophy and the whole friendship and.
So you're begrudgingly doing the friendship thing? You don't have to do friendship if it's not in you.
Well, I mean, this is like I've been telling her, this is the last Flat Earth show of the year, and it is what it is, and I'm done with 2015, and I'm done with the angst and the anger. No more angry Jonathan.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's turning over a new leaf. I just feel like, there's no place for it. Because the truth is coming out, and, it doesn't make sense to keep, like, making fun of these people.
Good point. Good point. Everyone's going to get it eventually. So it's only a matter of time.
I mean, I think everybody's doing the best that they can with what they have. Mm-hmm. I'm not defending anybody. But the more I thought about this, it's like it's like that whole thing. Like sometimes you got to like lose a battle to win the war. Yeah. And if there's other truths and other things that they're championing that are more important, not more important, but important in the present moment. Yeah. Like why would you throw them under the bus for this one thing or any? You know what I mean? It's not their cause. It's not their thing. You're championing it, and other people are championing Jeranism. Yeah. So let them come around in time, and if anything, let them be a little regretful that they missed the boat, they missed the opportunity, they missed the scoop. And they'll always be welcome if they come around again. It'd be a bigger testimony if they wake up and say, you know what, I was wrong, and I'm on board, and here's what I can add to the soup. All
right then. So that sounds pretty good. At the end of the show, we're gonna. I've got a list of predictions. I don't know if you want to throw any in on your own for 2016, but there were 2 that happened just recently. That in fact, one of them I just talked about yesterday. On Patricia's show, which was, we'll get into it in a second, which was the first one though, and I told you, was the Mars Orion program just pulled up stakes and just decided to call it quits, which was amazing. The clip for it, the little news announcement, which went all over the place. I put a video clip at the front of this thing for the YouTube watchers. And it shows basically that they said, French seismograph team or some science device, they didn't have it completely airtight, so they're going to scrap the whole Mars program. What are you kidding? And they say, we won't have another window for at least 2 years, so maybe we'll think about it then. But basically they said, we're not going to do anything more on the Mars program, even though they just got their budget for $20 billion.
Now, you see, that was a little too convenient, and I've said to a couple people, look, if we go into unfortunate World War III, or if the economy collapses, as many are waiting for, then they have an excuse. Well, they'll be like, we can't allocate a budget towards this. I mean, we have problems here on Earth we got to deal with. Yeah. And so that pushes out even further. Yeah. But,
it is. And the other thing that happened literally today was the ISS station guy from NASA says, we're shutting down the ISS too. It's like, what? The article's out there. Look it up. ISS. Some Canadian newspaper picked it up first, and it's really so. We're going to talk. We talk about the ISS. Remember, they're dancing to our music. We talk about the ISS and say how horrible of a production it is, and they cancel the show. And they say, oh yeah, we're going to do a moon base instead. We're not going to have people on circling around above us. We're going to have them on the moon. And even that is a far stretch for these guys, because as you know, on the moon it's 1/6 gravity. So it's fairly easy to do 0G because we can simulate 0G, but to simulate 1/6 gravity?
Oh no. They're going to come up with a solution for that. They're going to come up with some kind of... No, they're going to come up with an artificial... You watch. It's going to be science and everything. It's going to be an artificial gravitational, whatever they want to call it, pull around the base. And people are going to be walking down corridors that look like something out of Space 1999 or Star Trek or anything you've seen. No more of that Medusa chick with the high hair floating in space. They're going to be... Yeah, they're going to have some kind of explanation as to why it's stabilized normal gravity.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it's really filmed here on Earth, obviously.
Obviously. But yeah, it's just amazing. It's like, okay, so your answer to us criticizing the ISS production is to just shut it down.
Yeah.
We give you such bad reviews, you close the restaurant, basically.
That's basically it. I mean, what an easy out, right?
Wow.
No argument.
Yeah, and they're saying, we don't know what we're actually going to do with the hardware. Maybe we'll sell out space to private companies. And it's like, really? Well, I don't know how that's going to work. Exactly. What private companies are you thinking about? It's not a hotel.
So now does this now, again, like I said, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but does this mean that what's his name, Neil, doesn't have to deal with us at all because he has no job? Like right?
No. He'll still have a job. He won't be going to space though. He will not be going to the moon. I guarantee you that. Or he's not going to be doing that simulation. But no, I don't. Well, that's a good point though. Why? It takes out one thing out of the argument eventually. But all the footage is still there. It's not like all the videos that were made on the ISS in the last year or two don't exist anymore. So I don't know. It's just hilarious. I can't wait to see what happens next. So anyway, at the end of the show, we're gonna do actual predictions for next year, and who knows? Some of them may come true. I mean, one of them's already come true. It's on the list. I read it yesterday, and we'll talk about it then. But beforehand, because we're coming up on the time we said we'd grab Jeffrey. Can you try to grab him real quick?
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
We're going to try to bring in Jeffrey Grupp. Little does he know,
he says,
that we replaced his ordinary coffee with Sanka. That really dates me.
I was going to say that's old.
That is old. Where they used to say, we replaced this guy's normal good coffee with instant coffee. Does anyone even drink instant coffee anymore?
With acid, we put DMT in his drink. All right.
Nice.
I think Jeffrey's with us.
Jeffrey Grupp. Hey, Jeffrey. Turn up your mic just a little bit if you can. If not, that's not a big deal.
How about now?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Right on.
Okay. I'll try to mess with it here.
Okay. So Jeffrey, as we sort of introduced him in the beginning part of the show, he's made a new video, and he's very excited about it. And I watched it this afternoon, and it is extremely thought provoking. And so we're just gonna let you have the floor. First off, where's the video currently, and what's it called?
Well, I actually have a few videos out since I've been on the show last, but yeah, the one that is most interesting is the one that I put up today called the zentetic eye gyroscope. It's really the second round. Last time I was on the show in August, I discussed the first draft of it, which I took down in, I think, early October, just because I wasn't happy with it, and I found so many other things I needed to add to it that I thought I'd make a new copy, which is what I put up. But it's at zenteticism.com. You can go to, I've got a couple different URLs that'll get to the same page. One is flathead.science, peaceloveandflatearth.com, and zenteticeye.com. Any of these sites will get to the same place. Any of these URLs will get to the same place. Cool. But I don't. The point of the video is to present, like you've been saying, Mark. Everybody's trying to create models to try to get the big picture, because there's some holes in flat Earth. Where you're having trouble explaining some things. There's so much evidence for flat Earth, but on the other hand, there's a couple holes in a couple of things unexplained yet is the best way to put it. Yeah. And of course, the sphere earthers really come at the flat earthers and go crazy, and oh, you didn't figure out this one thing yet in the 6 months you've had to research it, so the whole theory's wrong. Never mind that the Big Bang theory that all the traditional scientific followers adhere to can't explain really anything, and it's pure theory. That's all okay, but if we can't explain the sunset in sufficient terms, then throw the whole theory out.
Oh yeah, throw the whole thing out. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a game. I've just basically started to ignore all that kind of stuff completely, just because I see the game. It's not really a game in trying to get to the truth. It's more of a game in I don't know. Let's try to protect the theoretical Big Bang theory and stuff like that. That people heliocentric model. That people really like that stuff, and people get crazy when you don't when you question it. It's almost really like a religion. I think I said that the first time I was on your show. Modern science is fundamentalism and fundamentalist faith, and if you don't go along with it, man, people get nuts. And especially with evolution, which is very clear, evolution has massive holes in it. There's not even a continual stream of skulls from Australopithecine to Homo sapiens sapiens. I mean, there's anything but we're supposed to believe this completely loose chain of is not even a loose chain. It's a completely broken chain with massive gaps in the line of skulls that supposedly lead from Australopithecine to us. But anyway, aside from all that, the model that I like it, Jonathan. Yeah, perfect. Picture you just put in Skype. Exactly. That's your great grandfather there.
Don't read it on air though. You won't be able to keep this.
I won't.
All right.
But anyway, the zentetic eye gyroscope is my attempt to really try to reason through some empirical evidence and try to put together an empirical model for how the flat Earth can work, and try to explain some of the things that haven't really been explained yet, such as 24-hour Antarctica sunlight, the long sunlight in Ushuaia, southernmost city in the world, and southern tip of South America, how they can have such long sunlight, ocean currents and gravitation, and southern stars, all kinds of stuff. And what I found is, after I put up the first draft of the zentetic eye gyroscope, I found that all these other things kind of fell in place. If I did one thing, I made the Earth plane larger, and I made it embowed. In other words, it's sort of, I don't know, it's not a parabola or something, but
it's got some warps to it. It's not flat. It's not perfectly flat.
Yeah, it's the people come along and say, you're supporting a concave model, which is, if I were, I would agree with that. But I use the term embowment because we're talking about a very slight curve. The maximum the curve would align with maybe 20% of the inside of a sphere, which would resemble more a flat surface than it would a concave surface. But it probably is not that much of a curve. It's probably much, much slighter than that.
Kind of like the flat and stationary Earth map by Orlando Ferguson.
Say again?
Maybe sort of like the flat and stationary Earth map by Orlando Ferguson.
I'm not familiar with that, but
while you keep talking, I will grab it.
Yeah, cool. Well, it seems the embowment will be different in different directions. I believe so the way the zentetic eye gyroscope works is, imagine a soccer ball with maybe a dessert plate inside of it, and you spin it around like crazy, and the plate will lodge onto one of the sides. And then if you can spin the plate where the middle of the plate is on the equatorial region of the sphere of the basketball, then the centrifugal force, if the dinner plate has a curve to it, the centrifugal force will perfectly mimic gravity. It'll be indistinguishable. Now, the embowment should be greater in the distance, in the direction of the along where the spin is happening, and it should be less in the other direction, which is, I won't explain exactly why that is, but if you sit and think about it, it makes sense. It just has to be that the centrifugal force is pointing straight down. Now, that's about as far as I got. Well, actually, I didn't get even that far with the first draft of the zentetic eye gyroscope. And after I put it out, I got some emails from some other flat earthers saying, no, Jeff, it's density, that's gravity. And hey, my response is, hey, I'm not sitting here trying to. I'm just really honored you guys have me on the show. There's all these people creating models. it's awful nice of you guys to choose me to be one of the people to present their model. I'm not sitting here trying to say that I've got all the answers and I'm right and everybody's wrong. No way. If this model is even correct, it is in the early stages, and it's going to take a lot of people to plow over this thing. You need academics to, quit doing their silly Big Bang theoretical research and look at this. We need the flat Earth community. We need, it would be a long haul to iron this thing out because there are so many details. And eventually, I just put the stupid thing out today because I was just, I'm like, there's just way too many details. I'm just going to put it out and as a draft, and I'll come out maybe with a third draft sometime in the future, perhaps. But anyways, some other flat earthers were saying, it could be density. The reason I don't, that could account for gravitation. The reason I don't subscribe to that model is because something has to be pulling, atmosphere down towards the surface of the Earth for it to pile up and so there'll be greater and greater air pressure the closer and closer you get to Earth. That isn't going to happen on its own spontaneously and uncaused. Something has to cause that to happen. I think I've heard the Morgile say this. I think this is not an idea that's unfamiliar to flat earthers with the problem with the density gravity model. Like I said, the Morgile, I've heard he gave a great criticism. Basically, he's saying the same thing I just said, and he said it, I think, in better terms. But anyways, so that's one thing that would be nicely explained. Let me say one thing though, really important. The idea that I've even seen in some comments today already on my YouTube channel, some people saying, well, I hope this model is in accord with Christianity because you've got, the earth is moving. And no, if you read those Bible verses, like Psalm 104:5, I think most of those Bible verses, and maybe all, as far as I'm understanding, it says the earth is fixed in its foundations and it won't be shaken and it won't move from its foundations and so forth. Maybe there are some verses I'm missing that say the earth doesn't move, period. But I don't know how you can say that, because if you've got a star moving in the sky and the earth plane is down there below it, if you're on the star and the star is moving, it's going to feel like the star is still and the earth plane is moving. So motion is sort of relative. And it's really hard to say one thing is perfectly still because how can that be? Because if something else is moving, it's the perfectly still thing, supposedly perfectly still, is actually in motion with respect to the other thing. So motion is a relative thing with two objects moving with respect to each other. So the idea of perfect stillness, I don't know if it makes any sense. I think those Bible verses are saying the earth won't move on its foundation. So the zentetic gyroscope model would be, for those interested in having a Christian interpretation of flat Earth, as I do, I think this model is completely in accord. Wait till I come out with. I didn't include much on the star trails. There was two disappointments in the video. I wanted to really hit the tides and the star trails, and there's just so much to both of those. And I'm like, okay, I'll just come out with separate episodes later of this series that I'm making on each of those topics. And the star trails could be. I think I know what those star trails are doing. And it's if I'm not going to say now because I need to research and I don't want to say a bunch of wrong information if I'm incorrect on air here. Yeah. But sorry if I'm huffing and puffing. I just got done running around. I came down right to my computer here. But yeah, the star trails are those would be the inside. Okay, imagine yourself inside of a spherical top or a spherical gyroscope spinning around and you could see through it, and outside was a bunch of white polka dots on the walls. You're going to see what's going to happen is those are all going to spin around in a specific way as you're spinning around, and you'll see two on the top and the bottom on either sides of the spin axis. You're going to see a circular ring that is formed of these of the spots outside of this clear gyroscope, and that's exactly what the star trails look like. Now the issue is though is I renamed the southern and northern hemisphere in the video. I call the northern hemisphere the NH inner circle and the southern hemisphere the SH outer ring, just to get out of these. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, the southern hemisphere," but then everybody always corrects themselves and says, "I don't want to use that term because that's what the heliocentrists do." Yeah, exactly. We don't want to use spherical terms anymore. So I just renamed them. I'm not thinking that these names will catch on. It'd be cool if they did, but whether it's those names or some other names, we have to rename the sections of the Earth plane because the northern and southern hemisphere do have different qualities, such as the ocean tides move in opposite directions in the northern, in the inner circle and the outer ring of the flat Earth plane. Yeah. And what I did in the video is I actually I don't know if you saw the whole video, Mark, but at the end, I've got that. I take the same bowl I used for the Sundog experiments. I should talk about my Sundog video, one of them I put out later too. But I took that same bowl. People are probably like, "Oh no, that bowl again with the flowers on it." But I took it and I made some partitions in it. They're supposed to mimic the continents. And then I thought, that may closely resemble the zentetic eye gyroscope because it's a spherical. The bowl is a half sphere, and which should be what the zentetic eye gyroscope is like, the Earth plane. And then I made some partitions that resemble the continents, and then it'll be deeper in the middle and shallower near the edges. And I spun it around in the way it would be. I moved it in this video in the same way it would move as if it was on the edge of a gyroscope that was precessing. That's the key is precession. Oh, I see you guys are leaving me some messages here.
That's okay. That's okay. We're trying to figure out what the break is, but when you hear music, you'll know.
Yeah, just say, hey, it's break. But so I moved it in the same way, and man, what happens is you get this. If you notice in the northern hemisphere, you'll get these huge. The inner circle, you get these huge gyres. In the Atlantic and Pacific, these huge turning currents that go from one side to the other. China over to, California over to China and so forth. And if I spun this bowl experiment in the same way, the same gyres would form. And if I spun it in different ways or changed the shape of the bowl or made the partitions different, then the gyres wouldn't form properly. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That sort of was in agreement with, the bowl experiment was in agreement with what we see with these big gyres. Now, I also thought it was kind of interesting, the word gyre, that's the kind of sounds like gyro and gyroscope. Gyre, I think, comes from the idea of twisting and turning and so forth, like with a gyroscope. But you wonder if somebody knew long ago that there, to create these words or, to have gyroscope and gyre have the same, little subword in there. You just wonder long ago what was created and no. I mean, because apparently at some time in the past, everybody knew the Earth was flat. I mean, like I've been thinking to myself, why can't we have that opportunity also? I mean, what a spectacular. That's why I bought that URL, Peace, Love, and Flat Earth, because man, this is. I've heard you guys say this is different. This is the biggest conspiracy ever, but it's different than 9/11 conspiracy, for example, because this one is full of peace and joy, and I think it's all about God personally. I mean, I'm not trying to push that down anybody's throat, but man, come on, if you've got a dome ceiling and a flat Earth plane, it's a done deal that this thing was intelligently designed. That's why at the very end of my video I make a reference to how it makes sense that we would be inside of a gyroscope, because if you look all over the place in the heavens, everything's gyroscopic. Galaxies are moving in gyroscopic ways. Of course, galaxies appear to be much, much closer and much smaller than we've been told by the sort of theoretical models from academics. But planets are doing that. Stars. The moon is a really weird gyroscope. It moves in a gyroscopic fashion without spinning. Somebody. Please explain that to me. That is truly, it's almost like there's a gyroscope inside of it, a light or something inside of it, or maybe a half light. Yeah. Like you've talked about a directed light that's spinning around and it's sort of pushing the membrane of the moon around. Oh, one thing I want to say, Mark, is I've heard you saying we should talk. There's so many things to talk about, but I've heard you talk about the sun as a directed light source. I disagree with that point, but on the other hand, if you watch the video when I talk about light refraction makes the sun operate exactly as if it were a directed light source. So it's almost like this model would confirm what you're saying.
Yeah, I lucked out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It makes sense. I mean, what else could make sense? I mean, light is pushed down. Okay. Man, I don't know. I realize that people are going to watch the video and they're going to. I have my own description of the sunset. Basically, what I do is I borrow what other flat earthers have been saying for a long time. 1800s all the way up till right now, talking about perspective. That's brilliant. Perspective makes the low sun appear.
Oh wait. There's the music finally. Okay, we're going to a first break.
Okay.
We're a little delayed, but we'll be right back with more Jeffrey Grupp.
Hungry Beaver Radio with John Bernard. Saturday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. With me is Jonathan from Jersey and our very special guest, Jeffrey Grupp. So, where did we leave off with you, Jeffrey? Or did Jonathan have
I thought I was going to say a couple things.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt before because I'm learning a lot, too, as I'm hearing you speak. But, it's unfortunate that the flat Earth, it's been so incredible this past year, but everybody's research is being done out in the open. And so you don't really get a chance to work out the details, like you said, when you have to work the math or you have to do this, that, or the other. And so it's like you're under constant scrutiny. It's kind of like, can you imagine the Wright brothers if everybody in town was walking past and saying, that thing's never going to get off the ground, why don't you just quit? You know what I mean? It's like you're always being criticized at every turn. But then when you come
I think that's okay. As long as I just ignore the garbage criticism, which is 90% of it. But I get good criticism, too, and I love it.
Yeah, the good criticism is great, and it does help. But what I'm getting at is that eventually there's going to be a formula, just like the curve of the Earth, when people now have 8 inches times the mile squared, right? Once we get back to those basics, and everybody can now, again, 3 generations out, school kids will be saying whatever we come up with now, whatever we establish, right? They won't be spinning a globe in the classroom anymore. They won't be. You see what I'm saying?
It'll be called the zentetic gyroscope.
Nice.
We're inside of it instead. We're at the bottom of the inside.
Yeah, I just find it frustrating, and I think it's great that you're doing all this and doing the videos you do, and I find it personally frustrating. I think when people have that negative attitude towards inventors or anybody who's trying to create something, it's like
we fear what we don't understand. It's an old saying.
True.
Now I could get some heat for saying this, but to be honest, guys, I'm not really trying to change the world. I'm doing this strictly for Christianity. I had my mind when I started this, because when I started, I was all worried, like, oh, people are going to think I'm nuts from flat Earth. That was back in like May. Now I could care less. Yeah. But when I first started, I'm like, I want to get into this because I just want to do it for me and a couple believers, and just because the benefits we will get are just unfathomable. And that's really still my ultimate goal. If it changes the world and we can create a Christian revolution, man, that would be something, and it could happen. But that's really my only intention, personally. I don't care. People can criticize all they want. I don't care, because I know the Christians are going to see what's going on.
Can I add one more point to that, though?
Yeah. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I think as we're moving towards greater levels of technology, too, now we're moving into quantum and everything else with computing, I think we're going to find eventually that what we think is spherical or a plane or anything else is incorrect as well. As we move up in consciousness and we start to understand quantum and entanglements and all these different things, we're thinking too simplistic in terms of 3D, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you trying to take the quantum multidimensions and apply it to the macroscopic physical world?
Yeah, even if it's like whether it's a hypercube or whether there's other things that we don't really see, so that when we interpret it in our brain, we think we can measure this space, wherever we're in. And then that's where you get into those conversations of like, if you leave a room, does the room then dematerialize? Is it only there when you construct it? Once you observe it, those kind of things. And if that all holds true, again, our whole existence here is going to shift with it.
Yeah.
So that all of a sudden, maybe there's not only 8,000, whatever the square footage of the Earth is. All of a sudden, you find out, oh my God, this thing's like 10 times more expansive than we even thought. We just couldn't see it before. Or it's similar to remember those magic eyes that were big popular about 15 years ago, the stereoscopic images? You'd see them all over the place, and you had to go cross-eyed, so you'd have to get glasses after looking at too many of them. But, those things couldn't be generated until they had computers that could create them. Right? Yeah. You couldn't draw those with your free hand. What I'm saying is, the perspectives and the things that are opening up in our brain is really based on so many factors of evolution. And so I think this flat Earth is fitting in at a key critical time where science versus, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we're becoming the real science. I mean, science is the description of what is empirical, of your observations of the reality. And we all know that professional scientists just simply are not doing that. People can yell and scream all they want about that, but it's just simple. I mean, somebody go point to the Big Bang singularity. Somebody go point to the missing link between ape and human. Somebody go point to the tectonic plate. I mean, there's all this stuff is either fully or partially theory. Somebody goes point to the superstring and string theory. It's a mathematical creation, and all the academics know this. So why do we call these things science? Answer: because science really, in the professional circles, doesn't exist. Science is people like me and half these other flat earthers out there, and other people. You know, who's the first person who ever did that moon experiment where the moon cools water? I mean, that person is a true scientist. Whoever did, I mimicked that experiment on my channel because I'm like, yeah, I bet it really doesn't cool the water. It did. I couldn't believe it. It cooled the water like 2 degrees in 7 minutes. I had 2 glasses of water next to each other. Both were. I got to do the experiment over because I had a weird thermometer. If you watch the video, the thermometer like went haywire earlier on, but that was before I did the experiment. Then the thermometer sort of got on track, and when it did, man, the one glass of water cooled. It was.
Wait! You placed it in moonlight or something?
Yeah, I did. You know, like you guys have talked about, it got the magnifying glass, and I had 2 glasses like at 85 degrees. And then in my living room, the full moon was shining. Well, it was actually the day before the full moon, so it wasn't even full. So it was not even. I mean, it's like what 10 times, you know, or some large percentage brighter on the day of the full moon. But I took the magnifier and shined it on. I concentrated the moonlight on one glass and not the other for 7 minutes, and they were in sync completely for over 10 minutes temperature wise. But then the one cooled 2 degrees 2 degrees more than the other, the one that had the moonlight on it. And I was just blown away. I always kind of knew that because, you know, when you're outside in the summer playing as a kid in the full moon, and it feels cool. Yeah. You know, I mean, if that was reflected sunlight, you'd feel hot. You could get sunburn and stuff like that.
Mark, I got to say one last thing and then I'll shut up.
Okay.
After you figure that out, can you do me one favor? Can you figure out why coffee is colder at room temperature than any other liquid in a cup? You know I'm right about this. We've all taken a sip of coffee from a coffee cup, not even known even if it's coffee. But at room temperature, water is always tepid at best. And then coffee is always ice cold. And I'm like, what the hell is this phenomena?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good point. Hey, Jeffrey, while we were on break, you mentioned the Sundog thing that you wanted to dig into.
Well, let me get into that later. I have a new Sundog video out.
Okay. Go ahead. Then.
But let me just say about the zentetic eye gyroscope. There's really 3 points to it that are the key. One is the embowed Earth plane. It's sort of like if you and I were holding a sheet, and we tried to make it taut, maybe just a little bit before it was taut, or even when it was taut, it really wouldn't be a straight line. It would be embowed a little bit. That's what we're talking about.
Sure.
That point, and also light refraction. Now, I know I've heard some flat earthers saying, oh, light refraction, whatever. No way. That is an utter key to everything going on. Light refraction is not some conspiracy theory or something. Go stick your hand in a bucket of water. Your arm's going to be bent. Go stick a stick in. I mean, that's because light changes direction if it travels through a heavier, more dense medium. Water is more dense than air, so it travels slower. And when it travels slower, the light will bend its direction. It'll change its direction because it gets bent. That right there is the utter key to understanding at least my model. And man, if light refraction is doing what it appears to be doing, that will explain 24-hour Antarctica sunlight in this model, Ushuaia sunlight, the sunset. Now the sunset, okay. Light refraction, the way it works is, if you shine light into a density, it will bend into the density. Now, what that means is that, man, there's a lot. I'm going to try. In the video, I have 3 points to the sunset, and I know everybody who sees it's going to realize the first point. It's unorganized. I could have done a better job, but you know what? I had worked on this crazy video for 4 months or whatever, and I just had to I was just going to either smash my computer or put the thing up today, so I decided to put it up on the internet instead, because I was just done working on it. I need to take a break. But so I apologize for that. But nevertheless, I still get the point across. But the point, okay, so my model on the sunset has been actually since way back when I made the first model, which I didn't put the sunset model. Oh, no, I did actually put it in there, but I didn't do a very good job. Is if you take perspective and add light refraction to it, that is the key to understanding how the sun can set and why when it travels sufficiently far in the distance, it dips below the horizon and the light is blocked out of view and the world can get dark and only half the world can be lit up. Now, academics are going to jump up and down and say, oh, no, he's a dumb flat earther. He doesn't know what he's talking about because light refraction bends light down, so it'll make the sun appear higher in the sky. Absolutely correct. On a sphere, okay? And even right at the at the horizon, when the sun, by perspective, appears level with the observer, even on a sphere, it's going to keep traveling past the level point. If it does, then it's going to refract in the opposite direction, and it's going to appear lower in the sky than it actually is. So, in other words, a sun setting without the need for curvature is going to happen either on a heliocentric model or a flat Earth model. And academics know this too, by the way. They talk about light refraction and the sun appearing higher, and then at the very last moments before, when it's at the horizon, it appears lower in the sky. So the sunset will happen without the need for curvature. And I don't know what the deal is with academics, and they know this. But anyway, the key point to understanding the sunset is that if you have an embowed Earth plane, any object this is a massive, massive point that every flat earther, I mean, if you subscribe to my model or not, fine. But I mean, this is a big point that could be very useful to some people in discussion with flat earthers, because there's a lot with ball earthers, because there's a lot of ball earthers out there. Like, I think Red Pill, there's a real good channel out there, a ball earther, Red Pill, I forgot, man, Red Pill something. Everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That real nice fellow that I think he lives near me here in by the Great Lakes. But he's got a great video out there where he's looking at the Chicago skyline in the distance, and the thing's lowered when he's looking. I think he's looking at it from Michigan, and it's lower on the horizon. He's saying, well, and there's another channel that's got some of the same stuff, looking at mountains out west and saying these things are lower. How do you describe it other than curvature? And I'm screaming in my, down here in my basement on my computer saying, because the light is bending, and you don't understand that light bends upward when you get things on the horizon to make them appear lower. So let me explain in the most careful terms so I don't lose the whole audience and get too technical or whatever. Let me back up and try to explain it simply. Now, if you have an embowed Earth plane, every object you see in the distance, you are seeing through light that is not traveling directly in a parallel fashion to where it was released. In other words, if you're on the beach in Michigan looking at, well, it's not called the Willis Tower, I'm just going to call it the Sears Tower because that's what I'm used to, and what you're looking at is not a beam of light that has traveled perfectly straight in parallel with the flat Earth plane. Instead, you're looking at something that has traveled across an embowed plane, and therefore the light you are seeing reflected off the Sears Tower is actually a beam of light that is tilted slightly upward. And that's the light beam that reaches your eye. Now, that's the key right there. Because if you're looking at a beam of light traveling from the Sears Tower to your eyes that is pointed slightly upward, is traveling through a lessening density. And if it's traveling through a lessening density, it will refract upward. It will bend upwards. And if it bends upward, the light beam that reaches your eye is bent upward, and the object will appear. It's hard to explain this without diagrams. You have to go watch the video to see how the diagrams are made and so forth. But when the light bends upward, when the way you see it, the orientation of being bent upward will make it appear lower on the horizon. Now, I know you're thinking, wait, I thought you said it bends upward. You have to think about if you're holding a rope that is slightly embowed. If you're looking at it on one of the ends, it's pointing up at your eye, but from your perspective, looking down at it, it's pointing in a downward direction. You got me? That's how objects appear. Any object sufficiently far in the distance, at the horizon only, not in the sky. If you go up off the horizon, the opposite happens. Then objects appear higher than they actually are. But right at the horizon, any object is going to appear artificially lowered by bent light due to it reaching the eyeball in the way I just described. So that means any object in the distance, you got to get out, 15, 20, 25 miles. That's why boats on the horizon, this doesn't really take effect until I think it's like 20 miles or so. When I've done, you get very little artificial lowering of objects on the horizon due to this light bending that I'm referring to. Until you got to really get out like 20 miles, then you really see a big jump, and it really starts to take effect. And that's why over in Michigan, you see the Willis Tower, 200 meters of it's cut off and so forth. I think at Michigan City, and you keep going up the coast, and more of it's cut off until it's out of view. And everybody says, oh, that's because the Earth is curved. Well, somebody proved to me right now that lowering is because of Earth curvature and not because of bending light. And if you discard the non-scientific information of NASA, NASA's information is non-scientific because we can't verify it. It's only verified by like 4 people or whatever. I'm being sarcastic here. But if you can't verify information and it's only for select eyes and not for all eyes, then it's by definition non-scientific information. So forget NASA's information. If you don't have that, there's no way to verify empirically, well, at least I think until this video I put out, if the Sears Tower appears lower because of curvature or this light refraction I'm referring to. And I have that, I put the same clip. Remember the first edition, I had volume 1 of this zentetic eye model out in August, and I took it down, like I said, but I took a clip of it of when I'm analyzing the Stellar Day Uni, if you remember, in South America, flattest place on Earth. Now, the question is that, okay, so where I'm going here is we want to know if, okay, so great, we can describe curvature of the Earth, we can describe the Sears Tower appearing lowered on the horizon from Michigan either by curvature or light refraction. Sure, somebody can say, sure, Jeff, either one might be a nice theoretical description, but how do we know which one is which? And if I don't know yours is true, I'm just going to continue to hold the curvature thesis instead. Well, I have an answer to that very good objection in the video, and that is when I analyze the Stellar Day Uni, what I do is the Stellar Day, so it's supposedly the flattest place on Earth, about twice the size of Delaware. It only varies in a number of centimeters in elevation across this whole thing. People ride motorcycles like over 100 miles an hour over the dirt because it's just so unbelievably smooth. And I know I discussed this once before, so I'm going to go through it very quickly, but yet, soundly. The idea is what if it's surrounded by mountains? So can we show that the Stellar is, if the Stellar Day Uni is actually perfectly flat and not just a curved curved part of the Earth without many bumps and variations and so forth, so that the heliocentrist is going to hold that the Stellar Day Uni is actually curved but just doesn't have variations and little hills and stuff, and that's what we call flat. But the flat earther is going to say, no, it's actually like a geometrical flat plane. So which is true? Now, as I've discussed before, last time I was on your show, when I discussed this clip that repeats in this second edition of this model, the Stellar Day Uni is covered with water, often for a whole rainy season or whole season at a time. Now, if it's not geometrically flat, it's not going to be uniformly covered from end to end. The water's going to wash to either side, because if not, then water's going to have to stand up and not flow. So the idea then is that the Stellar Day Uni is actually geometrically flat. Now, I give a much, much more detailed, much, much better description in the video, but I'm trying to move along here to get to all the points. Now, Mount Tanupa on the edge of the Stellar Day Uni can be, well, the video evidence I give in this documentary is it has tremendous lowering on the horizon. Well, if that's the case, if that's a geometrically flat plane and it's got tremendous lowering in the horizon, we have strong evidence that this lowering going on is the light refraction that I referred to that occurs near the horizon. And therefore, what the Stellar Day Uni must be doing is it's a piece of the embowed Earth plane. Now you may say, well, why doesn't water flow towards the center then? And the answer is because the centrifugal force is acting across that's why the Earth plane is embowed, because when you have if you're inside of a sphere and it's spinning, the centrifugal force is going to be perpendicular to the surface of the sphere at all points. So therefore, gravitation would actually work along the embowed plane. And so therefore, this lowering that we're seeing would be the result of viewing a mountain in the distance across the embowed plane, as I just referred to the Sears Tower doing, from one viewed from Michigan. So if you're putting all this together, if you're not, maybe go watch the video or rewind this and play it again. But this should all be very strong empirical verification that the curvature seen at the Stellar Day, the illusion of curvature seen at the Stellar Day Uni is actually light refraction, and therefore, ipso facto, curvature all over the place that we see is actually an illusion and is this light refraction. Now let me go right into the sunset, because think about the embowment and viewing objects across the embowment, viewing them not through a parallel light beam, but one that is slightly tilted, turned upwards. So you're viewing it through the decreasing density, so therefore it'll be refracted upward and objects in the distance will appear artificially lowered. Well, that will be progressively more and more and more the further out and further away objects are. That's why you go up the coast of Michigan and the Sears Tower appears to sink lower and lower artificially because of this bending of light. Now, that looks exactly like curvature. So it almost makes sense why people would think that there's curvature. But people through the centuries, you wonder if this was planted in people, and how certain scientists are selected by the mass media, in the current day, as the mass media will glorify some scientists and then ignore others, and then the ones that they glorify often become they'll often produce the scientific fads that will dominate a generation. Now, you almost wonder if that kind of stuff in different ways has gone on through the centuries. But on the other hand, it almost would make sense. People would think that the Earth is a ball from this. But, you also wonder, why wouldn't somebody have thought at some point, there's so much light distortion, oasis and mirages and all kinds of, there's different kinds of mirages. You stick your hand in the water and it's bent. Why wouldn't have somebody thought, maybe instead of curvature, which is kind of a radical, there's a lot of problems with introducing that theory back, with Copernicus and these guys. Why didn't somebody suggest light distortion? That seems to make a whole lot more sense. It's much less problematical, and it makes so much sense because we're seeing, everywhere we're looking, we're seeing light distortion all over the place. You can hardly look through a window without seeing, your image bent or something like that. So it's suspicious how this all came about, but it's really quite straightforward from what I can. So anyway, the sunset now, if you go further and further out, objects appear more and more lowered. Now, take the sun. The sun would be of the furthest out, so it will be refracted in this lowering fashion. When at the horizon, before it gets to the horizon, it appears artificially higher. But then there's a turnover point when it's basically level at the horizon with the observer by perspective, where it will go to the you have to watch the video, and I give probably almost too long of an analysis of this, but the refraction will flip as we've discussed a minute ago, and as academics know this as well. And the sun appears all squashed and everything like an oval as it's setting. This is all products of refraction going on. And so what'll happen is the sun will actually be refracted more than the water or land that makes up the horizon. I think the water or land that makes up the horizon is only 10, 12, 13, 15, I don't know exact number, 15 miles away. If you look at the Sears Tower from Michigan, if you look at the water that's at the base of, midway up the Sears Tower or wherever, however much is lowered, you quickly realize that water is not, obviously that water is not touching the Sears Tower. That water is closer. Okay, so the idea here is then the Sears Tower, so beyond that, so that water makes up the horizon. Beyond it, the light has been refracted out of view, so one can't see it. And then the buildings further are refracted even more, so we only can see the tops of them. And think of the sun at sunset. The sun is refracted in such a way that it will also be refracted more than the land that's closer up, and it'll appear to go behind the horizon because it's so objects further away are refracted more and are artificially lowered more and more. That's why the sun will dip below the horizon at the sunset. It's simple.
Wow, amazing! It's really really good stuff.
Well, I'm not asking everybody to agree right away. Oh, Jeff, you got it. I mean, I'm time will tell if I got this all right. It seems simple. Yeah. But anyway, sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. We have, I think, about 2 minutes and 45 to the break. What do you want to start introducing now?
Well, I mean, probably just going a little bit more of this stuff now. So I want to say, I feel sort of indebted to some of the other flat earthers who have. I mean, I don't think I would have thought of perspective myself. People have been talking about it, and goes way back to that guy, Robotham. He was talking, with his zentetic astronomy book. And really getting into flat Earth, I think it was, I know Eric Dubay kind of is sort of fighting with everybody, but, I feel indebted to him. And really you, Mark, you guys were the first two people that I watched videos of. I think it was maybe late January, early February of this year.
February. Yeah.
And I will be indebted to you guys and thankful to you guys forever. I mean, maybe it was Christ leading me to watch the videos or something. That may be what I really think, but I don't know. It's awesome. It's too bad that I don't know Eric Dubé. I've never talked to him, and he probably doesn't even know who I am, and probably never will. But it's too bad that I saw that article that was published about both of you guys. I just think it's dumb that he wants to fight everybody. I think he maybe has this idea that he's going to be the superstar and the flat Earth champion. I got news for everybody that nobody's going to be that person unless the mass media chose, you know how the mass media chose Einstein to be the superstar, and they chose Schrodinger to be the quantum mechanics superstar and so forth. Unless the mass media chooses someone to be the superstar, there's not going to be a superstar. Okay? Yeah. There's going to be people working together or fighting and being counterproductive. Man, why don't we all just figure this out and put our egos aside and realize that this is so big and this could be such a spiritual revolution that'll trump any of the false happiness that fame can give, and will be, a deep spiritual happiness is what this is really all about. And I think that hearing you and Patricia talk, I think you guys are onto this whole idea.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, Jonathan, did you have something before the break?
Real quick, I was going to say, now that they're not doing ISS or anything like that, and if the Van Allen belt still presents a problem, why don't they just shoot a rocket straight up and take a picture and put this baby to rest? Either way.
Yeah.
Because somebody did that on a video game recently. It was called the Kerbal Space Program, and they video recorded it.
Yep.
And you saw that one, Mark?
Yeah, I did see that one.
And it made perfect sense. That's what you would have to do. You don't have to worry about the Van Allen belt. Even if you just say, I want you to hit the moon with a rocket. Go. Let's have a contest. Who can hit the moon first? Like the Olympics, make it an event. Because I don't think anybody's hit it.
And by the way, before we go to break, in case Jeffrey didn't hear, the ISS was shut down. Or they say they're going to close it.
Are you kidding me?
No, they're going to close it. It was just announced today.
Oh, man. So we don't get to see the starless pictures anymore?
No.
It's all Mark's fault.
Exactly. We'll be back with more Jeffrey Grupp.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World, Segment 3. I'm your host, Mark, with Jonathan from Jersey and special guest, Jeffrey Grupp. Jeffrey, where did we leave off with you?
I don't know. I'm confused what we were talking about during the break.
Oh, yeah, because we were talking about the stuff.
Oh, good stuff during the break. Talking about the ISS. I don't, I personally don't have a problem with satellites. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but, if you can get planes up 30, 40,000 feet, maybe just put satellites at 50. I don't know. I mean, I realize that we're not seeing them, and they're, we should be seeing them all over. They should be falling from the sky and getting hit by meteors, like you were saying just, I think, yesterday, Mark. But I mean, it's not an issue I get real hung up on. And people are emailing me, what about the satellites? And I email back and say, hey, they may be there. I could care less. It's not something I have a huge problem with.
People will do anything they can to hang on to any last vestige of the globe, and satellites are one of them. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. Hang on to it. If you like the globe, it'll be with you a little while longer.
I mean, I don't think they're there, but if they were, I don't think it threatens flat Earth one bit. Just put them a little higher than the jetliners.
Yeah.
Hey, how'd you like that, Mark, in the video about how jetliners and, well, really any plane has to constantly adjust for their altitude because it constantly lowers.
Oh, yeah.
When I discovered that blew me away, because that's exactly what this zentetic eye gyroscope model would predict. In other words, if you take off in a plane, you're parallel. You're going to take off on the runway, and you're parallel to the runway. So that's your direction as you take off. But what we're being told is that 0 degrees Celsius or lower, planes keep lowering in altitude. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. That's every plane, because it's always going to be, if you get high, I mean, at least at jetliner, or even some of the small planes, but at jetliner height, it's always way colder than that, supposedly. So every plane's going to lower, but that's exactly what this model would predict, because if you've got an embowed plane, you're going to be pointing your nose down into the plane. So I was like, wow, I couldn't believe. That's what I kept seeing when I was making this model. Things kept falling. I mean, I almost thought I should not put the video out, because I kept, like, the Antarctica 24-hour sunlight. I just figured that out. Well, I just figured out that this model might explain that as well, just like 2 weeks ago. And I'm thinking I should hold on to this and not put it out. But, like I said, I just had to put it out for now.
Yeah,
but
cool.
What did you think of that, though, with the planes thing?
I thought that was very interesting. I wasn't watching it as much as I was listening to it, and I was going, wait, what is this?
Yeah,
that was really, really good. That was new. I hadn't heard anybody talk about that.
Well, I remember I was sitting there and thinking, because I was thinking, okay, how would a plane fly across? If it flies across half the Earth plane, like with a real long flight, like across the Pacific, U.S. to Japan or something, how would that work? It probably could feasibly maybe fly, make that distance without noticing much of the shift, in the altitude because of embowment. But like, no, it would have to. So I started thinking, well, maybe planes do make adjustments. So I just simply looked it up, and I was like, well, they would have to be, if this model is right, then altitude always would be lower, and they'd have to be constantly shifting up, pointing the nose up. And man, is exactly what they say. It's because of cold, but man, that description does not make any sense. Now, I also think that I don't see what the big problem is with these Santiago to Sydney flights are, Qantas 27. Man, I've got people coming at me saying that the whole flat Earth model is disproven for that. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know exactly how. I realize that people will attack this part of the video, right? Discuss that, because there's so many details in that description that I'm just going to put a basic description out, and people can interpret it how they want, and they're going to have to ponder it, because there's so many different ways that flight could happen. But the basic point is, if you've got the embowed plane, if you have a plane flying higher and it curves around, if it goes from Sydney to Santiago, if it curves across the Pacific, if it doesn't go straight, if it goes straight, it'll fly over the U.S. and everybody realize they're not flying over Antarctica and everything. Now, I've heard most of these flights happen at night, or I've heard they all do, but I think they would still work even during the day, because you could just tell someone you're not flying directly over Antarctica, you're just flying over water, and all anybody's going to see is they're flying over the Pacific and they're flying over water. Now, I don't know how this all works. I don't know if every pilot's in on this, or I'm not suggesting they are. There's so many unknowns. All I know is that with the embowed Earth plane, if you have a plane flying higher, and if light refraction is going to block out, land in the distance, such as when you're flying if you're flying from Sydney to Santiago and you've got the United States going past you and so forth, if you're over far enough in the Pacific, light refraction is going to block that stuff out, and all you're going to see is ocean, whether it's nighttime or not when you're making this flight. And it seems like if you get that plane going, 800, 850, it seems like it's going to make that trip. If it travels about a quarter less the distance because it's higher in altitude, I don't know if it could be that high, because then land would become visible. Maybe it couldn't be. Maybe it only could be, 50,000 feet or something. Yeah. But it seems like it can make that flight in about 11 or 12 hours if it's going 800 to 850. Now, to my knowledge, those planes can do 800 to 850 all day. I mean, well, yeah. Who really knows what these planes are going anyways, Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, it's an excellent point. And I cannot tell you how many emails I got, because they only mentioned one flight. That was the weird part. It was usually Qantas Flight 64, which was Santiago.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those flights.
To Auckland, New Zealand.
Now, that one's easier, because that one will take you only over Pacific.
Ah, got it.
On the flat Earth map.
Yeah.
Now, I think the flat Earth map is wrong. Not like crazy wrong. Just needs all. I think that
needs adjustment.
Huh?
It needs adjustments, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks this. Everybody does. I don't think everybody thinks that UN logo is exactly what we're getting. I mean, maybe it is, but I think that. Well, there's the star. Okay, I didn't put that the stuff on the star trails in there because that's going to be a bombshell. If I think I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to say what I think they're doing because I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. But there will be a huge biblical confirmation of some stuff if they're doing what I think they're doing. And the flat Earth map will have to have some adjustments. And I think that you're going to have to take Australia and New Zealand, move those over more towards South America. And I don't know how much, a little bit, maybe point them in that direction a little more too, and do the same thing with Ushuaia in South America. Yeah. I think that's the way the map's going to have to go. I probably shouldn't give all this info out now because I haven't, this is stuff I chose to keep out of the video because I need to check on it a little more. But that's to be able to see that Southern Star Trail, which is really just the one side of the inside of the spinning gyroscope, and I believe you're seeing the stars through the dome or through the gyroscope. I'm not sure though. I mean, because I thought the ceiling was made of water. I mean, I just say that because for biblical reasons. But then again, to my knowledge, the sky is exactly the same color as water. I've not done the experiment myself, but I've heard people on YouTube saying, and I've seen them do the experiment where if you take a tube of water, like get a piece of polyurethane, or what's that stuff called, like that plumbing pipe you can get at Lowe's or whatever. I shouldn't be doing corporate advertisements there by saying that. Yeah, your local hardware store, I should say, that is not some mega corporate nightmare. If you can somehow get water in it and look at it, try to angle it so the sun is streaming through it. To my knowledge, it's gonna be the exact same sky blue color. And then you take my model, man, and you've got it, the Earth's spinning around and there's oceans. It's one step further, and you want to say that the ocean isn't just right around the Earth plane, the circular Earth plane, but it goes all the way around. That just would seem to make sense for a number of reasons. I'm trying to develop more. I've got some evidence for that, but I'm trying to develop more and more for a future episode on, called the Sky Ocean or something like that. But man, this model is one step away from that. People, like I've said, this model is hardcore in line with biblical interpretations. Now, let me say I had absolutely zero agenda whatsoever. People won't believe me on this. I don't really care. Think whatever you want. Make up stuff about me. I don't care. I'm not in this for fame. But man, I had zero agenda in trying to make this confirm with Bible. I knew deep down it was gonna totally align with the Bible. But yeah, it's everywhere I turn, man, I'm like, yeah, that's what the Bible's saying. That's what the Bible's saying. Anyway, so the star trails are be a bombshell possibly in the future. But yeah, so anyway, the Qantas flight, one more, those flights, there could be many different, it seems there could be almost multiple ways those flights could happen. And I don't really see what with the embowed plane and the plane going 800, 900, 800, 850, it's going to be a piece of cake for those flights to happen. The question is just going to be what altitude would work. And then you have to calculate, how much time that flight would take. Now, likewise, Ushuaia. Now, this would be a little harder to explain because I've got to talk about refraction and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, if you've got an embowed Earth plane, that means Ushuaia is actually sitting up higher on the plane than something like, this is according to the standard flat Earth map. I don't know if this is going to hold in the future. People like myself and others will make adjustments. But anyway, as far as we know right now, Ushuaia is out at the edge of the Earth plane, and it's going to be higher up on an embowed plane. Man, that means that there's going to be less, for a low sun, there's less refraction that's happening. So that means it's going to take longer for the sunset, far longer. And in fact, if you go further up the embowed plane, there may be no light refraction going on, and you may get perpetual sunlight across the top. It's hard to, you have to go watch the video. It's hard to explain what I'm saying here. But imagine that embowed sheet that, you and I are tugging on, Mark, that's got a bit of a, not a U, but
a slight.
I don't know what shape, how do you describe the shape? It's nothing like a U or anything like that, but it's got a very slight slope to it. Don't even want to use the curvature; that's too strong of a word. Yeah. But if you have a low sun and right out where our hands are is where Antarctica is, you're going to get significantly, almost zero light refraction. Really, if you orient the sun properly, compared to something like in the center, like where near the center, like where the United States is, or something where you get a lot of light refraction, the sun will set if you have a lot of that light refraction, but it won't set if you're out near the edges. It almost seems like you could have the sun perpetually when the sun is furthest out
In other words, when it's like now, when it's winter in the United States and the sun is at its largest circular ring around the Earth plane, you're going to get the sun much closer to Antarctica, and you're going to get almost no light refraction. And it seems like the thing could be illuminated on both sides all the way across it for months at a time. Now the opposite will happen when the sun goes closer in, say when it's summer in the United States. Then you're going to get the sun actually will be at the same height. Well, I mean, I don't know if it keeps. I'm one of those. I hold the theory that the sun changes its altitude even sometimes during the course of a single day. There's some video evidence I've seen that really seems to point towards that. It's not just traveling exactly the same altitude across the embowed Earth plane, or if somebody holds a flat plane, rather than having a slight embowment.
Yeah.
But the point is, with the embowment, the sun will actually be down lower in this dinner plate, and so therefore it will be. Then the light refraction will take over in the summertime in the inner circle. What we're calling the northern hemisphere, the inner circle, and then you'll have no sunlight will be able to reach Antarctica, and it'll be perpetually dark. So I mean, this all might be a lot more simple than any of us were imagining if this model is correct. Now, this again, I want to repeat, I'm not trying to be the superstar. This model could flop, and people could show it's got filled with contradictions, and maybe somebody else will develop the real model. I'm just doing my best trying to. Maybe this is the one. It seems like it's all fitting together nice, and I'm excited about it, but I just want everybody to know that I'm not in this for ego. I could really care less. And you can go, any ball earthers, go ahead and attack me as much as you want. I don't care. I've got no ego for you to destroy. So give it your best shot.
Okay.
Want me to keep going?
Oh, yeah. Keep going, man.
Yeah. Unless you want me to interrupt. Oh, just
kidding. Nice. No. Keep going with whatever you had.
Now, another thing that is really interesting is go back to what we were talking about with the ocean gyres. Now, we've all heard Coriolis effect and, the drain spinning counterclockwise. When your drain drains in the southern hemisphere goes counterclockwise, and the inner circle goes clockwise. I don't know if that's all really going on. I don't know if the Coriolis effect is real. I know all these people that have never witnessed either themselves will say, oh, of course they're real because I read it in Scientific American, whatever. Now the point is though, whether these things I tend to think these things don't exist, Coriolis effect and stuff, but I've never really measured them, so I don't know either way. But the point is I think this model gives an explanation for both Coriolis effect and the differential spinning drains, because if you look at these big ocean gyres, the ones in the south are going counterclockwise, and the ones in the north, the big ones in the north, talking about the big ones, not the little eddies and stuff. Mm-hmm. The big ones in the north go clockwise. Now, it's the same thing that the drains purportedly are doing. Now, I've seen some people on YouTube doing drain experiments where, man, you got to have the water perfectly still.
I saw that test. I know the one you're talking about.
There's some cool stuff out there that people have done. And then it does seem to, there's some guys in Australia, hopefully they're telling the truth, they're really in Australia. Yeah, you saw that one?
I saw that one, and it's so amazingly subtle. It is
I thought that was a video, really.
Yeah, but even they were the first ones to admit it's like, look, the whole toilet thing and the drain thing, it is so inconsistent. You have to have a completely controlled experiment to show it at all. And they had to use dye just to make sure that they could show something.
Yeah, they did a great job, those guys. And I mean, even the professional academics are sort of on board saying, it's real questionable. And it takes, you have to be as careful of those fellas in Australia in their bath with that little kids
kiddie pool,
pool thing, and that they were poked a hole in the bottom of it. But, when I saw that, I'm like, man, what if the zentetic eye gyroscope is doing, okay, so if you're on the edge of imagine a top, it goes back and, it's spinning around like crazy, a couple times a second maybe. But then it also has this precession where the top is pointing one direction, is rocking back and forth. It's that rocking back and forth is what might be. So the spinning, the fast spinning, that's just causing an imitation of gravitation, centrifugal force. Yep. But that rocking back and forth, that's the important point is that's not a continuous motion. It is differential. And I'm using terms from calculus on purpose. Because you've got, if it was a continual motion, then you wouldn't notice anything. Just like when you're in the camper and we're playing catch with the ball, going 75 miles an hour down the highway, we're not going to even know that we're moving because everything has the same momentum and it's all constant. You have to have changes in velocity for you to be able to notice that you're moving. So that's what, you really might be able to account for ocean tides but anyway, so I moved the bowl like I was describing in the same way that when I set up that experiment with the partitions for continents and so forth. I moved the bowl in the same way, and it did create the gyres in the same way. It seemed in many cases. Sometimes it didn't work perfectly, but man, it seemed like every time you get that nice big figure eight where you got a gyre, one gyre stacked up on top of the other, one towards the center, one towards the outer ring, blah, blah, blah. So you'll wonder if those guys with that swimming pool are just simply picking up the motion of the zentetic eye gyroscope. Now, I didn't say the motion of the Earth plane because the Earth plane is still. It would be fixed to the inner side of the zentetic eye gyroscope. And of course, you all know what I'm saying. I'm making sure that I'm sort of making a biblical reference there. Sure. I talk about the Earth being still. Those Bible verses are all talking about the Earth is fixed and won't be shaken. Anyway, I said that already. Yeah. But so it seems like the Coriolis effect, if it exists, I've never measured it. I've seen some pretty bad videos on YouTube where people are trying to demonstrate it. I don't know if it exists or not because I don't have any empirical evidence either way. But this model very clearly could explain the Coriolis effect as well. So. I mean, we got a lot of stuff in one. I'm not saying, so many things are just explained by the model, so therefore everybody's got to believe it. No way. Because how many times have we seen one model for something looks like something else? I mean, we live in a world. This is an interesting point, guys. We live in a world that actually has two descriptions. Now, I'm a Christian. I would say one description is satanic and one is godly. I would say the flat earth description is the correct empirical description and comes from, it's a description of the creator's world that he's created for us. Now, and but you also can, it's interesting how we live in this fallen world where the same world can appear, if you look at it carefully enough, you see it actually doesn't appear that way, but it can be mistaken for a completely, really it's the opposite view. Instead of we've got an embowed surface, but the opposite view, I would say I hope I'm not getting too Christian on everybody. The fallen or satanic view would say, oh no, you don't live on an embowed plane, roughly flat plane that is an embowment. You live on a convex surface, and so everything's opposite. So instead of celestial objects being small and close, they're actually huge and far. Instead of the Earth being fixed in its foundations, it's spinning around and whirling through space. Instead of there being a dome, you've got this approximately infinitely open, quote, sky, unquote, which is really just this sort of forever with no enclosure, no enclosed aspect to it. So it's interesting how we live in this reality, which has dual descriptions. I just think I'm into sort of my personal research investigating what it means to be in a fallen world. I think it all gets back to numerology. If you read numerology, you realize that people's physical bodies, not always, that's one of the things numerology is not quite as accurate as describing, but often it will be dead on, maybe about 50% of the time. It'll describe people's physical appearances. And I'm thinking that's interesting. So everybody's sort of got a code, or it's like it says in John 1:1. There's everything is the word. There's a sound or word or logos that really is behind everything. And we live in a fallen state. So our existence is, we have a fallen logos structure. Our numerology code that dictates our mind, our soul, and our body structure is a fallen nature rather than an unfallen. And it makes me think that maybe apparently there's two creation stories in Genesis. The first one in Genesis 1 is actually the second. That's after the fall, and then apparently there it says, the world in the beginning, the world was without form. It didn't say there was nothing, and then everything was created from voidness, from non-existence. Yeah. That's what you get in Genesis 2 and 3, the Eden story, and then then the fall happened. And I realize that a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, that's all a bunch of garbage." I get it. I used to be the most rabid, crazy atheist ever. And if you doubt that, go look up the journal Sophia and look up Jeffrey Grupp in that journal. And you'll see in the early 2000s, I think it was actually when it finally got published, it was like about 2005, but I wrote it in the early 2000s. I published an academic article trying to prove atheism because I was such a hardcore atheist, which that changed, of course. And, people that used to listen to my old radio show, Antimatter Radio, know all about a lot of this. But the idea is. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
I got a question for you now that I know you were an atheist. What happened? What happened in Genesis 4 with that guy Cain? He never.
That's what I was talking about. Genesis 1 and sorry, go ahead.
He never had any peer pressure, right? There was never any MTV or drugs or anything like that. Like, what made him go wrong? No, I'm just kidding. It's a whole nother conversation.
Well, what I was going to say though is Christianity. I'm not trying to. I'm going to say one thing about Christianity here. Christianity only makes sense when you're doing it. When you're outside of it, I knew when I was an atheist because Christianity made no sense. Why do you have a God that creates beings that are going to be tortured in hell? And I mean, that's a God of love, yeah, right? I mean, I saw all the problems, but then I had some stuff happen to me, and that changed everything. And then I became a Christian. When I dove in and was all in, and like in Thessalonians, praying ceaselessly, man, it makes so much unfathomable sense. And so anyway, the point is, it seems like when I believe the Genesis story, there's a first creation, and then after the fall was a second creation, almost like God smashed everything up and built it over again. It's almost like for some reason there's these spiritual laws out there, and that must be the reason that Christ had to die on a cross or whatever. I don't understand all that stuff, but there's spiritual laws that are sort of beyond my little peewee human comprehension. But it seems like the earth had to be created with a different structure, in a fallen state, with a different sort of numerological quantum code to it. And I think that's why we live in this world which can have two descriptions, where one is the opposite of the other. And I don't know. Anyway, I should probably stop I can go on and on about all the Christian stuff, but it's just, when you think about this deeply, it's really astounding how everything has turned out, really, I think.
Agreed. Agreed. All right.
So what do you guys think about the idea of that everything in the distance on the horizon is actually just a trick of light, appearing lower?
Sure.
I mean, all these flat earthers out there saying the Chicago skyline proves flat earth. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Those buildings are lowered. That's not good. That's what you don't want to see.
Yeah.
But man, it's just all. I don't know how we all missed this. Not just us, the flat earth community, but everybody, academics and everyone.
Well, Jonathan also brought up something to me a while ago where he was saying that the weather balloon footage doesn't necessarily prove flat Earth either, because you'd have to get way higher than that. We've looked at the 3D models. You have to get way higher than that to even see even a semblance of a curve. So what basically it's saying, no, the balloons don't prove a flat Earth, but it does prove that NASA is lying because of all the exaggerated curve and the fisheye lenses.
Now, we were talking during the break, guys, about there's so many weather balloon and people blasting off rockets, and Ball State University has their kite that they flew up to 90,000 feet or whatever. I mean, all these things kind of show. I've seen a lot of these, and I actually had a video up for a while. I took it down because I'm going to redo it. But a lot of these actually are fake. You bring it, you can, the weather balloon goes up, 90,000 or whatever, whatever the huge altitude is, where everything's dark and the Earth is so far below, and you see the same river in the exact same place, exact same size, and so obviously some of these are fake. But why? But you do it just like you see the ISS with no stars. It seems that all of this weather balloon footage and stuff also has no stars. I mean, we're supposed to see more stars when we get up there.
Good point. Point. And of course, there's that thing that weather balloons are supposedly forbidden at night. That you're not even, supposedly it's illegal to even run weather balloon systems, launch them from a nighttime thing.
Not for nothing though. All cameras are image stabilized now. I can ride a motorcycle and hold one out at arm's length and take a perfect photo. So if you put a weather balloon up there and you float it up with a camera pointing outwards towards space, there would be minimal movement or shakiness, especially when it's light that you're picking up from outer space.
Oh, we're going to break.
Yeah, I got a theory on why there's no
break. Hey, we're going to break. We're coming back. Cool. Let you have free grub. All right. Jonathan. All right, see you in a bit.
I think his zipper stuck.
Strange World with Mark Sargent. Saturdays on Truth Frequency Radio.
welcome back to the last segment of Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. With me is Jonathan from Jersey and the illustrious big brain of Flat Earth, Jeffrey Grupp. And that was Joe Jackson stepping out. So, Jeffrey, you got the floor for a few more minutes. What do you got? Roll.
Yeah, let me, if you don't mind, I want to, okay, this is a theory. This is not an empirical, but I got to say this theory.
Okay, I think we're all here.
What was that?
Cool.
I have no idea.
All right, can I get moving? Can I roll?
Go back.
Yeah, roll. Go.
Okay, so we're presuming that these weather balloon experiments are weird. Some of them are clearly fake, but there's so many now. The rocket, people launch on their own stuff up in the way up there. Where this shows a lot of the same stuff. The sky sort of turns black and there's no stars. Now, I do have a theory on why there's no stars. First of all, we can verify that the stars are much, much higher than like the sun, for example. Now, for example, like I was saying during the break, if the sun, let's say the sun is 1,000 miles, I'm not saying that's what it is. Let's just throw out a number. The low sun flat Earth model would put it at 1,000 miles. Well, then the stars would be like 10 or 15. They're going to be significantly higher. Why do I say that? Because when you're in Wyoming, you can see the equatorial zone of these inside of the zentetic eye sphere way up, and it's way up high in the sky. That means it's far away, significantly further than the sun, which at night in Wyoming is going to fall out of view because it's refracted out of view because it's much lower and traveling at a different angle. The light's traveling at a different angle through the density of the atmosphere and it will refract more. Now, so in between the two star trails, you've got this sort of equator zone of where the star trails make sort of an equator. And so anyway, you can see that from Wyoming. So we know the stars are much, much higher. So anyway, astronomers put up their. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So astronomers, put their telescopes up on the top of mountains because that's where you see the stars so much better. Anybody who drives up Rocky Mountain National Park and goes up into the mountains there, sets your tent up like I did one time in my 20s, and boom, looking at the sky, and I'm blown away because the stars are unbelievable. They're so visible. So why in the world would we not see them when we get way, way up? And the only idea I have, okay, In the video, I mentioned that the dome appears, the sky dome appears to be a positive meniscus. In other words, that means it's thicker at the equatorial regions. In other words, straight up in the sky, and thinner at the where the spin axis is. Sort of near the horizon on either end, where we see the star trail. Well, we see the southern star trail on the horizon, and then the northern one appears more high in the sky. And there's going to be a bombshell discovery on that in the future on why that's the case. But anyways, the idea then is that what I first thought was happening is that, okay, a positive meniscus is going to invert what is seen outside of it. So we should see, if the sky dome is a positive meniscus, it appears that, I'm not sure about this yet, and because I need more evidence. It's just sort of a guess, but you would think there's some inversion going on of what is seen in the sky. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get at here is if you go high up in the sky, it may be the case that the way light is streaming through the dome and is refracted down towards the Earth plane, that you may be out of sight where you can see really any of the stars, because the light is being directed in a specific way through the positive meniscus, where the orientation is wrong if you're getting way up high near the dome. That's just a theory. I don't know if it's right, but it's definitely worth someone investigating, because it might explain it. So I know we just got a little bit of time. So I did another video on sundogs. Oh, I've done it. Everything's different since I was on last. I did an Antarctica video, and something on the academic view on sunsets. I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, that's a weird video. But academics have some strange theoretical stuff they're talking about with sunsets. But anyway, this sundogs video I did. Now, a lot of people notice a sundog. Often a sundog will appear like it's floating right in front of you, and you're almost going to reach out and touch it. And they also can appear way, way, like they're way up in the sky, many, many miles away. Or they can appear both, like it's streaming from you way into the distance. Now, the point is I did a video where the only way to, you can get sundogs appearing blocked out. The sun is in the background, and it's blocked out by like a building or a mountain or something. But the sundog appears in the shade between the sun and, it's in front of the item that's blocking out the sun, the mountain or the building or whatever. That is amazing. And the only way I did a video on this, about 45 minutes long, called Sundog Inversion Physics. I think it's volume 3 of the series I'm making. Yeah. That appears to be because the sundog is an inverted, the light is coming in from a different angle than is expected, because it is reflected off the dome. The back of the sunlight is reflected off the dome, and so the object is inverted because of the concavity of the dome, and light's coming in from a different spot, and it converges as reflected light images do off concave surfaces. The evidence is getting stronger that sundogs are. I'm not saying it's done and everybody should believe it and all that, but the evidence is getting stronger. That's what sundogs are. Yeah. So now, pretty interesting. How much time do I have?
About a minute.
Okay, and then one last thing. The two bummers that I couldn't get in the video, the one I put out today, volume 1, the second edition, second draft of this zentetic eye gyroscope. The star trail stuff's not done, so I just made a blurb about what the zentetic eye gyroscope model would say they are. They'll come out later. But the tides is the other one. That one could potentially hold some explosive evidence for this zentetic eye gyroscope model. But there's so many factors, and you got to figure in ocean temperature, tide, the current velocity, depth of where the tides are, how long the tides are in place, ocean salinity, sure, the texture of the shore. There's so many things that it's hard to get your head around it all. But there could be a very strong explanation for why the tides exist as they do on this model, because if the currents are being created by the precession back and forth of the gyroscope, then it would appear that the tides would follow directly from that, since it appears that there's just a whole bunch of stuff that there's a lot more to this that me or other people can dig into. I don't think this model should just be for me. I'm hoping that this is something people really dig into. I realize some people won't like it, and that's cool, but those that do, it'd be fun to get this rolling.
Cool. Thank you. Stay with us, because we're not going to break or anything. Couple things I wanted to finish out, because we don't have that much time, because we're running a little short, because I forgot that we were actually running it live, and so I didn't set the thing to button. It doesn't really matter. So Real quick, because we were gonna, this is our last show of 2015.
Yeah.
And Jonathan and I, we've done, this is number 36 or 37 or something like that. And it's hard to believe, we've already gone, through 30 something shows. And I just want to do a quick thank you, not only to all the listeners who've been listening so far in 2015 and making it a great flat year, also to Chris and Shree Geo, for making this show possible, but mostly to you, man, because you have been my rock in this whole thing, and you do a lot of stuff for me that most people don't know about. First off, we talk a lot off air and talk about just about everything that's going on in the world, and you've been a real guiding force as far as you've been calling, saying, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and you haven't been wrong yet, which is great. And the other thing was, look, I don't know if I would have done a show if it wasn't
right?
free. Yeah.
You've done a lot of them, though. I mean, you've done interview after interview, roundtables. I mean, I don't do any of that stuff, but
yeah, but I don't know if I would have done my own show, because I personally I know there's people out there that can solo their own show and do it, but I may be able to do it, but I wouldn't have nearly as much fun. It wouldn't be as natural for me, because a lot of my back and forth stuff comes from the tech support world and the trading world, where you're interacting with people. And so, I mean, I don't like to take calls. I like to take calls, sure, because there's lots of people that want to talk about stuff. But no, you've been the driving force for me, and kind of tell me what you like about this and what you don't like about that, and I value your opinion.
I appreciate that. I mean, yeah, and I apologize. I know some people get into, you're listening to a guest speaker, and I don't mean to interrupt or interject. I just try to bring some levity to it, but I appreciate that, because I believe in you, and I've always tried to be helpful towards you. And like I always told you, if I had advice for you, it would never be to guide you. I remember when people in the beginning were like, "Oh, you're Mark's handler," and I'm like, "No, I'm just like his." He confides in me, or he talks to me. He uses me as a sounding board, and I tell him what I think, and it's good to have that.
Yeah, and your call that came out of nowhere, when we started this thing, and how we were comfortable around each other, and we bounced a lot of things, and it was great. So it's fun. It's fun having you, and I would hate to think that you would not be a part of this. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying,
it pains me. I did say what I've been saying the past couple. I got my own show, and I'm not putting enough energy into it. I don't think I'm really doing enough of my own thing. So I don't know. I mean,
right. Okay. With that, let's do this. Let's end the show on. We've still got like 9 minutes. With the predictions for 2016, because next show you guys will be hearing will be on 2016. So I'm just going to rattle off some of the ones that I like, and if you have others, these are kind of mine, are kind of a repeat from the show I did another night on a different on Patricia's show. But one was the first one, of course, I called it, was the Mars Orion program was going to fold like a card table, and it did. I didn't even have to wait for 2016 for that one.
You nailed it.
You could never fake it. You can't fake an operation like that. The internet is too smart. The hive mind will detect that. One of the other ones I had was massive international false flag, probably in the United States. Meaning it will affect everybody, but it's going to be big to where the whole world finds out about it really, really fast. Yep. Something bigger than 9/11. Number 2, believe it or not, was disaster involving the ISS, which is interesting because, again, we didn't make it to 2016, and, well, I think it's a disaster because they're closing it down. So will they be able to close it down cleanly, or will there be a problem?
I'm going to let you finish your list first, because I got something to say after.
Oh, okay. I'll real quick then. The hit count on YouTube for the relevant hit count for Flat Earth will break 5 million. That shouldn't be too tough because it's like 2.6 right now. Several B-list or higher celebrities will be active in social media about Flat Earth, either positive or negative.
Definitely.
Neil deGrasse Tyson will formally disavow any further discussion about Flat Earth. Basically, he's going to talk about it without talking about it. NASA will announce contact with another life form on Mars. I'm guessing that's kind of a bold prediction. There will be a major roundtable with university scientists and leading flat Earth proponents. I think it might actually happen. Donald Trump or a leading political candidate, will make some reference to flat Earth in sort of a positive light during the campaign bit. I think it might happen.
Be amazing.
Well, they might say like in an open-minded, what if the Earth was flat? One of those things. Mainstream media will produce a flat Earth Antichrist. Kind of like what Jeffrey was saying. It's like, they'll put somebody on a pedestal, somebody that's not us, that's not a part of the movement now, and say, oh yeah, he wrote 3 books on the flat Earth, and here's all these false credentials, and he's been doing it forever, and he's the guy that's going to lead it. And then mainstream will try to make a connection between flat Earth and terrorism in some way.
Interesting.
If they're desperate. If they're
they
desperate.
never did that with 9/11 though. 9/11 conspiracy theory.
Yeah, good point.
They seem to. Well, no, you might be right, Mark, because I'm wondering about that too. But it seems that the people who go along with the system, those are the ones who are attacked by it, by the satanic Illuminati. The ones who you go get your cancer treatment, and you're attacked by it. You go eat your Lucky Charms, and you get aspartame poisoning. The people who fight against it, it's like these spiritual laws. Those are the ones who don't get attacked, and I don't know. I could say a whole bunch about it, but sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay, Jonathan. You had a.
Well, no, I think I gave you a prediction with Chris Geo last month. Was it the beginning of December or was it the end of November?
Which one?
And I said that December would be full of drama, and I think I was correct on that. Art Bell went off the air.
Yep.
And Rebecca Roth was found out.
Yep.
And like you said, the ISS is shutting down, and they're not going to Mars.
They're not going to Mars.
So I mean, that's pretty good drama right there.
Yeah, and if you get a brand new $20 billion budget and you kill the Mars program and kill the ISS, what are you spending the money on?
Good point.
Because you don't have a space shuttle program anymore. That was knocked off a couple of years ago. What exactly are you doing? So
I'll throw one more bit of drama because whether these words go out over the net, I don't know what to say. So I'll say for 2016, the meme and theme is going to be follow me and grab your guns.
Really?
How's that for? Yeah. Interpret that as you will.
Interesting.
I'm saying the way the flat Earth picked up steam this year,
yeah,
it went from a few thousand to multiple millions.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the theme for 2016. People have had enough. I'm watching too many trends on too many topics from the CDC on down. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. People have had enough. And I think people are ready to take a stand. And I don't mean in a violent way. I'm just saying it's going to be that gung-ho attitude of follow me and bring your guns.
Wow.
Yeah. No more passivity. People are finally waking up.
Wow. That's pretty good. Jeffrey, you got any predictions for 2016?
Man, yeah, I think you're false flag. I don't know I think we're going to get a Paris style one here. That's the way they seem to do false flag. You do a 9/11 false flag and everybody can pick it apart like crazy and show how fake it is on YouTube and stuff. Yeah. But the way they're doing it now, it's all behind closed doors and hard to verify stuff. I mean, obviously some people are showing the fakery, but I fear, they're coming out with warnings at Los Angeles schools, I think they're announcing what's coming. And man, people are going to freak out when that happens here. And people are going to be begging to go to war.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a big mess. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a prediction. I just fear that in the future.
Wow. We got a minute or maybe 2 minutes left. What, you want to plug anything, Jeff?
Oh, well, my own stuff, zentetic.com. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's, I really like your stuff, Mark. I don't know. I guess I hadn't thought about I'm not sure. I have to think about it.
Oh, no, that's all right. I mean, your YouTube site is also Zeteticism.
That GeoShifter guy, he put out a spectacular video on the Antarctica boat race. Check that out. That is unreal.
I will check that out. Yeah, that's really cool. There's a lot. There's so many people coming out with new stuff
out there, isn't there? A lot of junk, but man, there's some awesome things being put out.
Yeah, some people. There's so many videos out at this point that people that are coming into it now must be just getting completely overwhelmed because they're looking at it going, wait, how? It gets worse every day because if you're coming into it fresh and you just get this wall of videos, what do you think? It's like, what have I been missing? How long has this been going on? How have I not known about this? Mm-hmm. It's getting pretty wild out there. But going from 50,000 relevant hits back in February to 2.6 million today in such a short amount of time, and it inspires people to make their own videos, which is also fantastic. love, even the people that come out against it. That's the sort of passion this thing brings up. It's polarizing. You can't be on the fence about it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, the opponents really are crazy on this one.
Yeah, but
I'm seeing straightforward conspiracy theorists, that good sound thinkers getting weird and nuts and saying the sky, some pieces of evidence about the flat Earth are real clear, and to deny them is like saying the sky is green, and I'm seeing people doing it.
Yeah, totally agree.
Weird.
Well, I don't know if we're actually, Chris should probably let me know if we're killing off here in about 30 seconds. Like to thank everybody who is listening in 2015 again. It's been really fun doing the shows, and we'll
amazing year.
Yeah, an amazing year.
Thanks, Mark, for letting me be on this.
Oh,
yeah, you guys are great, man. I really appreciate being able to take part in any way.
Right on. I don't know if we're actually ending at 59 to the hour or not. If we're not, well, probably. Well, let's just talk until we have music.
I can fill that air. Trust me.
Well, shoot, throw something, and then we'll bleed to music. What else do you want to throw out?
How about? Okay, well, I wasn't okay. Let me think of something. How about the Jeranism boat?
Oh yeah, the Jeranism boat thing. If no one's seen that, there was a Canadian up in Hamilton, Canada. There was somebody that parked a boat next to a shopping mall, and it was painted. It was a white boat with black paint on it. All these flat Earth slogans, including Jeranism's website, and all this great stuff. And it was a fan of Jaron's work who had contacted him months earlier and said, "Yeah, I did a boat and I put it next to this highway." Well, apparently, without even updating him, he just parked it in a mall parking lot and let people walk around it. Until finally, it was listed as abandoned, because Canada, they don't exactly do anti-terrorist things that much. But they decided it wasn't a threat, and all the things that are on the outside, because flat Earth doesn't necessarily constitute a hate crime. And they said, it seems a little nuts, but again, it got press, which is really, really great. So.
Another big thing that happened, you guys were talking about December was active. How about that moon pudding thing? I think Patricia called it, looked like pudding. You could see the Earth in the distance and the surface of the moon. I mean, it just looks spectacular.
Oh, yeah. That was the shot that Jonathan mentioned where they were doing the stacking images. But the moon was below it. The moon was below it. And yeah, it was like, okay, so you took the JAXA footage, you just recycled that, changed the color palette a little bit, and added an Earth image. It was the most crystal clear Earth image I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, we've had a thing there this entire time, a probe flying around the moon. We decided to take a picture. No big deal. It's like, really? Because it seemed like a big deal when you took the picture from that probe that was 1 million miles away with the moon passing in front of it. Why this one wasn't such a big deal, even though it was the clearest image ever. But it was a snapshot. It wasn't even a real moonrise. It was just, a snapshot. It's like, really? Because there's some college kids that could do that real easy in Photoshop, and probably did. And again, it was that other thing where another American shot, but they keep showing Africa. It's like, why? Why would you wait for that? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just to say, think of all the people out there, some listening now this year that just had their lives changed. I don't know if you saw, I got an email from a fellow named Doug. I forgot his last name. It was actually tonight, Mark, and he was just saying, it was this just spectacularly beautiful email saying, he actually referred to me and you, Mark. He said, you and Mark Sargent have just opened a part of my mind, and it's so exciting. I think he was saying he felt like a kid again, and it was the way he felt with the new way of looking at everything. Think of all the people out there that happened to in 2015, and think of how it could really roll in 2016. I don't want to toot my own horn. I'm not looking to pump up my ego. I'd rather kill my ego, if you want the truth. But we actually do. People can refer to my model. Don't even mention my name. Just talk about the zentetic eye gyroscope. But you've got a model now where, all these ball earthers, what about the stars, southern stars? Well, how come you can see them? 24-hour Antarctica, all this stuff. We actually now at least have one model. I realize other people are working on other stuff, and maybe somebody will come out with a better model than me. That'd be awesome, and I would love it because the more we can get to the truth, the better. But we have a model now that answers all this stuff, and all these ball earthers now are it's gonna. I think it could change things a little bit for the whole movement. I think the movement needed at least one. Hopefully this will be the first of several. They can get better and better, but we needed one model really to pull it all together. I've had a lot of people email me and say, wow, there's so much good stuff about the flat earth. The water can't be curved, like Michigan can't have a hump, blah, blah, blah. But I'm stuck on all these problems and they're just killing me and I'm questioning the flat earth. Well, this model pretty clearly addresses a lot of those. And, you can't make quick, like you said yesterday, be patient with flat earth. You were saying to someone who's, somebody sent you a message and said, oh, well, you haven't made any progress. How long did it take to develop this stupid heliocentric model? 500 years or whatever? I mean, it's going to take a little bit. We've had, 8 months for most of us, 10 months. I mean, and I think it's a miracle that I even came out with this model. It could, like I said, it could be shot down in the future, but man, we're making unbelievable progress.
Oh, yeah. In 10 months, so it's leaps and bounds. So
I just think that moon experiment, I mean, that's what we wanted to be doing.
Hey, we finally have music. So thanks, Jeffrey Grupp.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jonathan. See you guys next time.
One of the best inventions ever was the book. A book lets you zoom through time and space, but don't bother packing. You can stay in one place. Whether you head north, south, east, or west, a book can be your passport from your own neighborhood to the craters of the moon. In your imagination, when you read a good book, you bring the book to life. You bring the book to life. When you read a good book, you're the actor. A book lets you zoom through time and space, but don't bother packing. You can stay in one place. Zoom through time and space, but you don't have to take my word for it. There are stories everywhere you look, if you look in the right way. New castles to build, mysteries to be solved. The answer is in a book. Believe it or not, this is a book. Big or little, it doesn't matter. It's what's inside that counts. I love maps. All kinds of maps. Each one tells me something different about the world. There's a map for just about any place you're interested in going. Even the littlest idea can end up as something big. All of these books started out as an idea, and look where they ended up. A book lets you zoom through time and space, but don't bother packing, you can stay in one place. Zoom through time and space, but you don't have to take my word for it. The inventing takes imagination. How about you? If you could invent anything, what would it be?
Shoes, where you can walk on the walls. Pocket-sized time machine. Automatic dog walker. Technology that make kids in charge of the world. A machine that can clean up my room.
You can be the expert by picking up a book. It's up to you to pick it off the shelf. You can be the expert by picking up a book. It's up to you to bring it to life. An idea has to start here or here. You bring the book to life. In your imagination, you can be the expert by picking up a book. It's up to you to bring it to life. A book lets you zoom to the craters of the moon. You bring the book to life in your imagination. Zoom through time and space in your imagination. There are stories everywhere you look, if you look in the right way. New castles to build, mysteries to be solved. The answer is in a book. There are stories everywhere you look, if you look in the right way. New castles to build, mysteries to be solved. You can be the expert in your imagination.